She yelled, "You really think you're the best I can do?" In the middle of a fight. I replied, "You're right." Then I took a promotion to NYC, leave next day, and rebuilt my life. 6 months later, when she saw me with someone new, her tearful message said everything. For context, I'm Mark, 35M. My wife, Jenna, 33F. Married just under 4 years. No kids. Apartment we could barely afford in a neighborhood she liked because it felt ambitious. That word mattered to her. Everything had to signal upward motion. Jenna had been in a mood all week. Snappy, impatient, correcting me in that sharp tone she used when she wanted to remind me she thought she was smarter. If I paused before answering, she'd sigh. If I disagreed, she'd smirk. By Tuesday, I was already exhausted, and it was barely 7 p.m. She came home late, heels clicking, tossed her bag on the counter, and immediately started in on me for not having dinner ready. I reminded her, calmly, that we'd agreed to order takeout. She rolled her eyes and said, "God, you always remember things wrong." That was the spark. I told her I was tired of being talked to like I was incompetent. Not yelling, just stating it. She laughed. Actually laughed. Then she launched into the familiar script. How I was too comfortable. How I lacked urgency. How I should be grateful she saw potential in me. I said, "You know I got offered that promotion last month." She waved it off. "In the same city. That's not real growth." Something in me tightened. I asked her, quietly, why she even stayed if she was so disappointed. That's when she snapped. She leaned against the counter, crossed her arms, and said it. Loud, sharp, and deliberate, like she wanted it to cut. "You really think you're the best I can do?" The room went dead silent after that. No music, no traffic noise, just her staring at me, waiting for me to scramble, to reassure her, to beg. And that was the moment something very calm settled in my chest. I looked at her and said, "You're right." She blinked, confused, smiled like she thought she'd won. She had no idea that was the last thing I was ever going to say as her husband. She stared at me like I'd spoken in the wrong language. There was this half second where she clearly expected a follow-up, an apology, a scramble, something like, "I didn't mean it like that," or "I'll do better." Instead, I just stood there, weirdly calm, hands at my sides. Jenna scoffed and shook her head. "Wow, so now you're agreeing with me? That's pathetic." Normally, that would have hooked me. Normally, I would have defended myself, explained my job, my plans, my timeline. That night, I didn't feel the urge. I asked her one question. "Do you actually respect me?" She didn't answer right away. She rolled her eyes, grabbed a glass, poured herself wine she'd been saving, and said, "Why does everything have to be so dramatic with you?" That was my answer. I went into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Not to sulk, just to think. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A Slack notification from work. I hadn't even opened it yet, but I already knew what it was about. 3 weeks earlier, my company had offered me a promotion. Bigger role. Real jump. The catch was relocation. NYC. Jenna didn't even let me finish the sentence when I told her. She said New York was overrated, that she wasn't uprooting her life for my career, and that if they really valued me, they'd make it work here. That night, while she slept facing away from me, I replied to the email. "I'm in." By morning, I already knew something else too. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to negotiate. And I wasn't going to give her time to talk me out of it. I was leaving the next day. I woke up before my alarm, which almost never happened. Jenna was still asleep, curled toward the edge of the bed, phone face down in her hand like she'd passed out mid-scroll. I watched her for a moment, not with anger, not even sadness, just distance, like she was already someone I used to know. I got up quietly and made coffee. No toast. No breakfast for two. Just me, standing in the kitchen, rereading the confirmation email from HR like it might disappear if I blinked too long. It didn't. By 8:15 a.m., Jenna shuffled out, hair messy, already irritated. She grabbed a mug and frowned when she saw I'd used the last of the good coffee beans. "Seriously?" she said. "You couldn't save any?" I didn't respond. She noticed the suitcase by the door then. A pause. A sharp inhale. "What is that?" "I'm leaving," I said. Calm. No build-up. She laughed. Not amused, dismissive. "For work? You're being dramatic. We didn't even finish the conversation last night." "There's nothing left to finish." Her smile faded. "You're not serious." I told her about the promotion. NYC. Start date in 3 weeks. I told her I'd already accepted. I didn't ask her to come. That part landed harder than anything else. You decided this without me, she snapped. After everything I've invested in you. That line almost made me laugh. Instead, I said, you made it pretty clear you thought you could do better. She stepped closer, voice rising. I was angry. You don't blow up your life over one fight. It wasn't one fight, I said. It was clarity. She called me selfish. Small. Accused me of running because I couldn't handle the truth. Told me no one in New York would put up with me the way she had. I didn't defend myself. I picked up my bag. She followed me to the door, still talking, still trying to provoke something, anything. When I opened the door, she finally said, so what? You're just leaving your marriage. I looked at her then. Really looked. You left it first, I said. I walked out. By noon, I'd signed a short-term lease, booked a one-way ticket, and told my manager I'd need relocation assistance fast. Everything moved smoothly once I stopped asking permission. That night, Jenna texted me 13 times. I didn't reply to a single one. The next 24 hours felt unreal, like I was watching my own life through a window. Jenna oscillated between rage and disbelief. Her texts came in waves, angry paragraphs, followed by half apologies, followed by threats disguised as concern. You're throwing everything away. You'll regret this. You can't survive out there without me. That last one stuck out more than the rest. I spent the day tying up loose ends. Canceled the internet. Took my name off the lease. Changed my direct deposit. Each task felt strangely satisfying, like checking items off a list I should have written years ago. When I came back to the apartment that evening to grab the rest of my things, Jenna was waiting on the couch, perfectly put together. Makeup done. Hair styled. The version of her she used when she wanted leverage. She patted the cushion beside her. Sit. Let's talk like adults. I stayed standing. She sighed dramatically. I didn't mean what I said. You know that. I was frustrated. You pushed me to say things. That sentence almost impressed me. The confidence with which she rewrote reality was something I'd grown used to. She reached for my hand. We're married. You don't just walk away because your ego got bruised. That's when I felt it again, that quiet, steady clarity. It wasn't my ego, I said. It was my self-respect. Her expression hardened instantly. Oh, please. This is about you wanting validation. You think a bigger job makes you bigger. I smiled. Not sarcastically, just calmly. No, I said. It just makes me gone. She stood up fast. You're making a huge mistake. You'll crawl back. They always do. I picked up my last box. No, I said again. I won't. She followed me to the door, voice raised now, sharp and desperate. You really think you're going to do better than me? I paused, hand on the knob. I already am, I said. I left that night and slept on a friend's couch. My flight was at 6 a.m. By the time Jenna realized I wasn't bluffing, I was already in the air, phone off, marriage behind me, and a version of myself she never thought I'd choose. New York hit me like cold water to the face, in a good way. The city didn't care that my marriage had just ended. It didn't pause for my feelings or ask for context. It just moved, fast and unapologetic, and I moved with it. The first week was chaos. Temporary apartment. Long onboarding meetings. Learning subway lines like survival skills. I slept 4 hours a night and lived on coffee and street food. And somehow, despite the exhaustion, I felt lighter than I had in years. Jenna tried again on day 3. Her message popped up while I was walking back to my place after work. Can we talk like adults now? I didn't answer. Then came the pivot. I miss you. This is weird without you. I didn't realize how quiet the apartment would be. That one almost worked. Almost. But then she followed it with, you didn't have to embarrass me like this. There it was. Not I hurt you. Not I crossed a line. Just how it made her look. I blocked her number that night. Work consumed me after that. The role was bigger than anything I'd done before. People expected things from me, and listened when I spoke. No eye rolls. No sighs. No subtle reminders that I should be grateful for being tolerated. 2 weeks in, my manager pulled me aside and told me I was already outperforming expectations. Said it like it was a simple fact. I walked home that night through streets full of noise and strangers and felt something settle into place. I wasn't proving her wrong. I was proving myself right. By the end of the first month, my divorce paperwork was filed. Clean. Efficient. No dramatic phone calls. No closure conversations. Just signatures and silence. Jenna tried one last time through email. You really threw us away for a job. I didn't respond. Because it wasn't a job. It was my life. And for the first time in a long time, it actually felt like mine. 6 months went by faster than I expected. Not in a blur, but in layers. New routines replacing old ones. Morning runs along streets I couldn't name at first. A favorite deli that knew my order. Colleagues who invited me out without asking about my personal life, like it was an open wound. I didn't date right away. Not because I was broken, because I was quiet. I wanted to hear my own thoughts without someone narrating them for me. Jenna tried to break the silence twice during those months. Once through LinkedIn. That one actually made me laugh. Hope NYC is treating you well. I blocked her there too. By month 5, I felt solid. Not euphoric. Solid. The kind of grounded that doesn't need witnesses. That's when I met Claire. It wasn't dramatic. No sparks flying across a crowded room. We met at a bookstore, both reaching for the same copy of something we'd already read. She smiled, apologized, and made a joke that wasn't trying too hard. Coffee followed. Then another. Then dinners that didn't feel like performances. Claire listened. Not like she was collecting data, but like she actually wanted to understand. She didn't test me, didn't compare me, didn't ask what my 5-year plan said about her. One Saturday afternoon, we were walking through Soho, hands brushing but not quite holding, when I felt that quiet certainty again. The same one I'd felt the night I said you're right. This was easy, honest, undemanding. 2 weeks later, we were officially together. No announcements. No social media. Just reality. I didn't think about Jenna anymore. Not until the night everything collided. Claire and I were at a small rooftop bar. Nothing fancy, just warm lights and soft music. I went to grab drinks. When I turned back, I saw Jenna. She was standing at the bar, staring at Claire like she'd found something misplaced. Our eyes met. Her face drained of color. I watched it happen in real time. The recalculation, the shock, the sudden understanding that I hadn't stalled without her. I walked back, handed Claire her drink, and introduced her calmly. Jenna didn't say a word. She just nodded, tight smile trembling, eyes glassy. I didn't linger, didn't explain, didn't apologize. Later that night, my phone buzzed for the first time in months. A message from an unknown number. I didn't know you'd moved on. I didn't reply to her message that night. I put my phone face down and went back to Claire, who was talking about a trip she wanted to take in the fall. I listened. Actually listened. And that's how I knew how far removed Jenna already was from my life. She'd become background noise the moment I chose not to engage. The next morning, though, there was another message. Seeing you like that hurt more than I expected. I stared at it longer than I should have. Not because I missed her, but because I recognized the tone. It wasn't grief. It wasn't accountability. It was shock that the script had changed without her approval. Against my better judgment, I replied once. I didn't stay frozen where you left me. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, reappeared. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she wrote. I thought you just needed space. I thought you'd cool off and come back. There it was. The assumption that I was an extension of her timeline, not a person with one of my own. She followed it quickly with, she doesn't know you like I do. I almost felt sorry for her then. Almost. That's the point, I typed back. I didn't hear from her for a week after that. Then, late one night, the longest message yet came through. Apologies mixed with justifications. Tears typed out between defenses. She said she was brutally honest, not cruel. Said I was supposed to be strong enough to handle it. Said she never thought I'd actually choose myself over the marriage. That line stuck with me. I never thought you'd choose yourself. I didn't reply, because I already had. The following weekend, Claire and I cooked dinner at my place. Music low, windows open, no tension, no walking on eggshells. At one point, she laughed at something stupid I said and leaned her head on my shoulder like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I realized something simple and final. Love wasn't loud. It didn't threaten. It didn't test your worth. Jenna sent one last message that night. Do you ever miss me? I deleted the thread. Not out of anger. Out of closure. Life settled into something steady after that. Not perfect. Not cinematic. Just real. Work stayed demanding, but it didn't drain me the way it used to. I wasn't bracing myself before going home anymore. I wasn't rehearsing conversations in my head. Home was quiet in a good way. Claire and I took things slow. No rushing to define the future. We cooked. We walked. We talked about books and trips and stupid little annoyances. When disagreements came up, they didn't turn into character assassinations. No scorekeeping. No ultimatums. One night, months later, I ran into someone from my old life. A mutual friend of Jenna's and mine who was in the city for work. We grabbed a drink out of convenience more than nostalgia. About 20 minutes in, She hesitated and said, "So, Jenna's not doing great." I nodded once. "Neutral. She talks about you a lot," the friend continued. "Says she didn't think you'd actually disappear. That you were always the safe one." Safe. The word hit exactly where it was supposed to. "She keeps saying you changed," she added. I smiled into my glass. I didn't. I just stopped absorbing disrespect. That seemed to end the conversation. Later that night, walking home alone, I thought about how Jenna used to confuse comfort with control, how she mistook my patience for permanence, how she believed love meant leverage. I realized something else too. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of herself that felt superior standing next to me. That version didn't exist anymore. A few days later, I officially changed my number. Not because she was reaching out. She wasn't. But because I didn't want the door open out of habit. Claire noticed the new phone and asked about it casually. "Just closing an old chapter," I said. She nodded. No probing. No insecurity. That night, lying in bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace that didn't need explanation. And I knew, without any doubt, that whatever came next wouldn't involve shrinking to be loved. The message came on a Sunday night, almost a year after I'd left. Different number. Same energy. "I saw you again today." I didn't have to ask how. Mutual circles shrink faster than people think. I stared at the screen for a long moment, thumb hovering, then locked my phone and set it down. Claire was in the kitchen humming to herself, barefoot, stirring something that smelled like garlic and comfort. 5 minutes later, another text. "You look happy." That one almost felt honest. I picked the phone back up and read the rest that followed in a rush, like she'd finally stopped editing herself. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it. "I thought you'd always be there." I didn't mean it the way it came out. I was angry at myself and took it out on you. There were tears in those words. Real ones, I think. But there was something else too. A quiet panic underneath them. The realization that the floor she thought was solid had been standing on me. She ended with, "I just needed you to know I finally understand." I exhaled slowly. Claire leaned against the counter and asked, "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said. And it was true. I typed one last response. Short. Clean. "I believe you." But understanding came too late. No blame. No lecture. No reopening doors. A minute later, the dots appeared. Then vanished. That was it. I blocked the number and felt nothing dramatic. No triumph. No sadness. Just completion. Later that night, Claire curled up next to me on the couch and rested her head against my chest. She didn't ask about the phone. Didn't need to. And that's when it really hit me. The loudest regret in Jenna's life wasn't losing me. It was realizing she'd mistaken certainty for weakness and taught me how to walk away. A year after everything blew up, I stood by the window of my apartment and watched the city do what it always did, move forward without waiting for anyone to catch up. Claire was behind me, still half asleep, wrapped in one of my shirts, scrolling through her phone. We had plans later. Nothing big. Lunch with friends. Maybe a walk. Normal things. The kind that used to feel impossible. I thought about that night. The fight. The sentence. The way Jenna had said it like she was handing down a verdict. "You really think you're the best I can do?" Back then, she expected fear. Expected me to negotiate my worth. She didn't expect agreement. What she never understood was that the moment someone questions your value out loud, the relationship is already over. They're not speaking in anger. They're revealing hierarchy. I didn't leave to punish her. I didn't leave to prove anything. I left because once you see how someone truly sees you, you can't unsee it. Jenna had reached out one final time months ago through a mutual friend, asking how I was doing. I told them to tell her I was fine. That was the truth. Nothing more needed to be said. Claire looked up from her phone and smiled at me. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. And again, it was true. Not because everything worked out perfectly, but because I didn't betray myself to keep someone else comfortable. I took the promotion. I left the next day. I rebuilt my life without announcing it. And when she finally saw me with someone new, happy, unbothered, that was when reality landed for her. Not as revenge. Not as justice. Just consequence. I turned back to the window, coffee warm in my hands, and felt nothing toward my old life except gratitude for the moment that ended it. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't anger. It's agreement and walking away.